Green morning, green afternoon, and green evening world over to all our brothers and sisters across the globe, wherever you are. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful Thursday, 15th of September 2022, Indian Standard Time, 8 p.m. You can synchronize your watches. We are moving with our deliberations, celebrations together from 10th of September to 27th of September. And Feast is bringing a beautiful appetite for all of you. It's a tourism deliberations and celebrations. Today we have got very important subject because everybody talks about responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, ecotourism, ecological tourism, adventure tourism, and green tourism, serene tourism, all that when we talk about, we are moving ahead. During the pandemic, we have done 1,600 webinars, and now today is 1,659th in the series which we are moving ahead. Please leave nothing but only your footprints wherever you are traveling. That's the message we give, and we start with lots of responsibility for sustainable world. International Chamber for Service Industry is a link between non-resident Indians, Indian corporate, overseas corporate, and the government interface from time to time. And our chamber focuses on services sector. There are 54 segments of service industry, and 12 sectors have been identified as a focused areas by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, and Ministry of MSME. We are focusing on that. Dekho Apna Desh, rethinking tourism, celebrating World Tourism Day, which will fall on 27th September. So each day, right from 10th of September, we are bringing a lot of deliberations, and of course, is giving a lot of insight and the new packaging to all of us. How do we rethink and how do we repackage and how do we replan? Dekho Apna Desh, of course, our philosophy goes Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam and Atithi Devo Bhava. Way back in 2001, Shri B.K. Goswamiji, he then initiated Forum of Educators and Scholars of Tourism, which today is Forum of Educators and Skill Providers for Tourism. So it's a week-long, almost about 2 weeks deliberations, which we are having. We started with Indian tourism post-pandemic on 10th of September. On 11th, we had the non-resident Indian. We got Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan, Professor of Tourism, Holiday and Leisure Marketing from the Lamar University, Texas, USA, from the Houston. And he talked about repackaging education and skills post-pandemic. Thereafter, ladies and gentlemen, Pandura B. Thawareji, who is the president of Agri Tourism Development Corporation, wonderful person. What ground realities he gave on agri-tourism, farm tourism, rural tourism, and we focused on northeast part of India. Thereafter, we had gone to Mumbai. Of course, it's a Bollywood and Tollywood together. We had the film tourism and cinematic tourism, the complete canvas, radio, television, theater, music, films, animation, digital, whatever we can think of, with Mr. Ravesh Tekwaniji, who is the non-fiction writer, audiovisual creator, filmmaker, and teacher, trainer, coach, guide. Because this particular series is more focused on educational hubs, skill hubs, and of course, students, teachers, counselors, principals, directors, vice chancellors, non-resident Indians, and of course, the policy makers. So thereby, we are trying to bring different themes. कल हमारा मातृभाषा का दिन था, कल हिंदी दिवस था, तो हमने पर्यटन की पूरी बातचीत कि किस तरीके से भारत के गाइड को तैयार किया जाए और किस तरीके से हम उस चीज को आगे लेकर चलें. Tomorrow, you will be having cultural heritage tourism, dance, music, art, handicraft, costume, fairs, festivities, cuisines, monuments, and museums. Everything we'll be discussing tomorrow. That's on 16th of September. On 27th of September, ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, is coming with the ebook, Rethinking Tourism Post-Pandemic. We will give you the copy of that and you all can share. So ladies and gentlemen, long back, way back in 1906, Napoleon Hill, there's a beautiful book called Think and Grow Rich. And the caption which you can take from there is, whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So let's come together for repackaging and rethinking tourism. And we extend a very hearty welcome join me in welcoming two of the distinguished guests today. Those are joining us over here, Captain Swadesh Kumar, CMD Shikhar Travels, and the founder president of the Adventure Tour Operators Association of India. Hearty welcome to Captain Swadesh Kumarji. Beautiful mountains at the back. Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have also been joined by Shri Rakesh Mathurji, who's the founder member and the honorary president, the Responsible Tourism Society of India, and the former president, ITC, Welcome Heritage Hotels. And this particular body, Responsible Tourism, when we talk about, it's a national body for responsible and sustainable tourism. We extend a very hearty welcome to Rakesh Mathurji as well. It's such a pleasure. And same thing goes for all our Gurujan and Gunijan and all the audience from the world over, wherever you are. So ladies and gentlemen, the canvas is very large today, and we have got a lot to share with all of us. Let's take on the journey. Let's start with Captain Swadesh Kumar. What's your vision on ecotourism, adventure tourism, how to prepare youth, what exactly educational institutions should do? Because in India, we have got almost 1,027 travel and tourism, institutions at present, giving various programs, whether certificate programs or diploma programs or bachelor degree or master degree. And at the same time, at the vocational level, CBSE, Navodaya Vidyalaya, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Ministry of Education is doing a phenomenal work, because vocational subject, tourism, hospitality, and of course, with that, you have the aviation as well. Captain Swadesh Kumarji.
Lovely. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. I was a speaker about a year ago in one of those webinars. Let me, friends, I was thinking to share with you story of adventure tourism, how it started and how it evolved into ecotourism. The ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible tourism is a very beautiful words. But what actually it means, let me share with you. Let's say ecotourism start with. Ecotourism is just another word of soft adventure tourism. And adventure tourism definition is very simple. There are three components. One is there you can see the nature. Second is where you have an immersion in local communities. And third is from any activity. Any of the two, if they are there, is become adventure tourism. And if you walk into the areas where not much activity is taking place, become ecotourism or soft adventure. I also want to touch base, knowing that all of you, most of you are experienced studying tourism as a part of subject, teaching or studying. And I will not go into tourism. For example, let's say this way, the 10% of the world economy activities is tourism. 10% is a huge, huge activity. But in India, unfortunately, we have not so much of importance to tourism, but it's getting better and better. I want to share with you, start with, I came to this business of tourism way back in 1975, 74, when I was doing flying, I was a captain and pilot, and I loved mountain climbing. Mountain was my hobby to climb, but somebody approached me and says, why don't you join us and convert to tourism? I had no clue about tourism. There was no adventure tourism in the world at that time. And we joined. And there's a story started, but let me come back to what happened in 74, what happened in 60s, what's happening today. When we used to go to climb a mountain in the Himalayas, we used to walk in. Suppose you want to make a bridge, cut a tree, put on the riverbed and cross. In the evening, when we want to feel cold, cut tree and make a firewood and say campfire. When we were ruthless in cutting trees, we were ruthless in not looking after the system. I'm talking of 1960s and 60s and early 70s would happen. And then time came in 10, 15 years ago, we said, okay, that's not the right thing. Let's go into buying kerosene oil. Kerosene oil was used. However, Portugal was still using firewood. Then time came, no, it's not good. Today, we currently were using gas. And not only this, We're also trying to use, telling everyone to please use gas with you, so that we must carry gas cylinders with us, no kerosene oil, no firewood, not only for the porters. So it is so important. So because it's all a part of the ecotourism. I'm just trying to share with you this incident in life to tell you that how this whole thing has evolved in the last 40 years of its nations. Also, please understand the equipment thing changed. We used to have different equipment. Now the quality of equipment has gone up. And not only this, people have started moving in a different way. Nobody wants to go into area which is fully crowded. So ecotourism plays a very important role. Where there's a lesser crowd, less people go, there people want to go, and it means the ecology is sustained, maintained. You know what's happening is today, another thing I want to tell you is that we also need to understand that the ecotourism, if you want to actually make ecotourism part of the life, you have to train the traveler. I think unfortunately, in the travel industry, we are a travel industry, there is a huge understanding of looking after the areas of ecology and but tourism, traveler. For example, pilgrimage traffic, for example, unfortunately, they don't care because they are trying to make it a very cheap tour and stuff like this. So I think the government, us, and the travelers have to have a synergy to see that we look after the mountains and whatever we can call it, so that we can have a have a sustained growth in the country. Please also understand that the ecotourism is normally takes place in ecotourism. I'm talking of takes place in the far-flung areas of the Himalayas, the desert, or coastal areas, where there is no other activity, no industrial activity can take place, unfortunately. So traveling tourism is the only way you can give employment to the local people. That means to say you are providing employment opportunities to the far-flung areas, and this how I think is important. We as a tour operator, responsible tour operator, ensure that 90% of our staff we hire is the local communities. We don't import staff from other states or other places. It has two advantages. People get a knowledge of the local area. People get a job. Plus, the tourist gets a chance to interact with the local communities. I think this is very important, very essential for us. There are few challenges I would like to share with you, which we in the travel industry are facing today. When we talk of ecotourism and responsible sustainable tourism, what's happening is there's a lot of pressure in certain areas. For example, Ladakh, we used to have only 20,000 tourists the whole season. I'm talking about 70s, became now lakhs of students, 100,000, 300,000 tourists come to Ladakh, and 90% are Indians, because everybody thinks of going to Ladakh, and there's a huge pressure on it. Similarly, go to Gangotri temple. Huge lakhs of people go over there. What exactly is required today is that we need to disperse the traffic. We need to ensure that we have a different areas, and only then the pressure will be reduced considerably from areas which is heavily pressured. How we can do it? Very simple. We as tourism professionals have a responsibility to look for new areas where we can go. What's happening today is that all of us cut and paste, go to Google Baba and say, hey, I want to go to this place, and the itinerary comes in place and you sell it, without realizing that it's not true. You need to find new areas, and for that you need to actually travel, visit. Ecotourism or adventure tourism is not you can pick up from the book. Actually, physically, you have to do it. You have a knowledge. I give you an example. Recently, we had a group to Himachal Pradesh, to peak. The itinerary which I had with me was go start trekking from A to B place. Unfortunately, when we reached A place, there was a road already, and road was started only 6 months ago. So it is so essential for us to be in touch with the ground realities and understand what's happening around. Also, what another challenge we're facing today is the people who are going to sell cheap tours. In a sense that if the good, if you can get a package for 5,000 rupees, for example, for a 5 days holiday, 1,000 rupees a day, which is absolutely ridiculous to do that. How they reach it? They put fixed camps on an area, and fixed camps are not done by even people from the cities, but also from the local areas. They have learned the methodology. Now, what is fixed camp? It starts in the month of November. The first 100 times or 50 times or 160 times fixed on the place, and 3-4 months nothing moves over there. There's a toilet, there's a kitchen, there's everything. That means the ox doesn't get a time even to breathe. The worst is the things are collected, the human waste is collected in one place, and it really damages the ecology. We in the tourism industry are fighting very hard to see that we must, no group should have more than 15 to 16 people. They should keep on moving every day. And what's happened now? I want to share with you that if you don't listen to the nature, somebody will go and say, okay, hey, you have a problem, you have to behave. So my suggestion to you, to youngsters who are listening to my speech, that please, three things you must do: respect the earth, respect the nature, to learn something new all the time. And third and the most important thing is respect traveler, respect the situation all the time, and keep on going in the nice direction. I also would like to really touch base a little bit more on what's happening today in the industry, in the adventure tourism industry. You all are professionals. I want to explain to you, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Bhushan Sharma had mentioned one thing. There are 1,200 organizations, schools in the country. But did you know, we don't get skilled manpower at all. There's a huge shortage of skilled manpower. And why it's happening? That's because theoretical knowledge is no good. I would request the teachers sitting who's listening to my speech, please contact associations like Mr. Master's Association, like my association. I have Adventure Tour Operators Association of India. There's all of this. Please contact us. Say, hey, we have 10 students, 20 students, give them a training. And believe me, we'll give them a training. For sure, we will give them a training. All children who are listening to my speech, please contact, take my email and write to me. I promise you, I'll get you a placement for a few months, a few weeks, or whatever possible for training. I want to tell you one thing very interesting, my story. When I became a pilot, there was no jobs for me. So I went to the Flying Club. I said, look, I want to look for a job. He says, you can work free of cost. So I became an instructor right from Flying Club Jaipur for almost 6 months to log my hours without cost, without any income, because I would love the flying, So if you love mountains, come and go to any travel company, say, hey, give me opportunity to work. I had recently got 2 youngsters who came to my company. They said they want to work, no salary, but they want to climb mountains. So I said, okay, come and join us. So they went and climbed a mountain, an 7,000 meter mountain, only because they said no salary. But of course, I did give them some allowance. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that if you want to become a professional, you love adventure tourism, must get a job, must work in a company. Only then you will have knowledge will increase and things like this. And finally, I would like to tell my all colleagues who are listening that only way today, if you have to sustain yourself, is cooperation. Recently when we climb a mountain, each of us have on the rope. If I fell, some other will hold me and see so I don't fall into crevasse, and vice versa. When we're opening a route, I will make first step or 3 steps. I get tired, somebody else will make 3 more steps. And similarly, when we climb the mountain, we help each other. Today, in my post-pandemic, I humbly request each one of you to help each other, cooperate with each other. Cooperation is a mantra today to survive. And if we work together, remain together, we will be doing good service to ourselves. Thank you, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Captain Sudesh Kumarji. Ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, he's a captain of flying. And that's why he gave you the example that 6 months he did the work without getting any kind of an honorarium or a salary or a package. And something very interesting points which he has touched for all of us. When he talked about soft adventure nature, local community benefits and activities. And then, of course, huge kind of a offer he has made to all the institutions. And I personally feel that colleges, universities, institutions must invite experts from time to time,
Yes.
and they should go, they should meet the faculty, they should log on with them, they should join them, and they all should work together so that children can be given practical skill right from the schools and colleges and institution itself before they come to the trade. With these words, let me extend a warm welcome to Rakesh Mathurji, the founder member and the honorary president, the Responsible Tourism Society of India, and he's also the former president of the ITC Welcome Heritage Hotels. So, sir, you come from the hospitality background as well. The industry which has suffered maximum during COVID-19 is tourism, hospitality, and of course, aviation is also the golden triangle part of it, three of them together. Kindly let's build up the subject. And also when you have the National Body for Responsible and Sustainable Tourism, what at present is going on? What is your vision? What's your message for education ecosystem in our country? With these words, Rakesh Mathurji, kindly unmute your mic.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to this very prestigious event. Let me start by sharing with you what is the background, how this Responsible Tourism Society of India came into being. I think first and foremost, I may like to mention that it was launched as the Ecotourism Society of India in the year 2008. And then over a period of time, we realized that there is much more to tourism. When you talk of ecotourism, the image that it connotes in the mind is that of nature, mountains, rivers, lakes, etc. Whereas that was not all. We wanted to align ourselves with the Sustainable Development Goals set by the United Nations. You know, the 17 goals, which covered areas like peace and prosperity, improvement in quality of life, poverty, health, education, hunger, sanitation, and things like that. And therefore, we decided to change the name of the society to the Responsible Tourism Society of India. Of course, apart from the normal aspects that we are engaged in, looking at minimization and control over garbage and pollution and plastics and things like that, which today everybody is talking about, and controlling energy and water consumption and things like that. We also realized the need to protect local communities and culture and benefit local communities. So I think that was one of the key aspects. Secondly, benefit the differently abled. I think our industry had a big role to play as a responsible tourism industry, that we should look after all segments of society. Thirdly, promote local consumption. I don't want to go into the details of the kind of consumption, what I call luxury consumption that takes place. But the more local you got in whatever you were consuming, whether it was food, whether it was craft, whether it was culture, I think it had to be localized to benefit the local community. Then creating jobs in local areas, which were, rural areas or whatever. Tourism had to benefit in creating local jobs. Create awareness. Then we had to create awareness amongst tourism service providers, not only amongst tourism service providers, but also amongst tourists. I think Captain Sudesh Kumar touched upon that point about, the responsible travelers. So it is very important that we found it very important that we should touch upon the travelers and create awareness amongst them. And finally, of course, create awareness amongst children and future generations, the young people who will take on the mantle over a period of time as to how important all these things are. And finally, we came out with this concept of safe and honorable tourism, where tourism should work towards protection of women and children in the travel trade. So I think these were the guiding factors behind converting from Ecotourism Society of India into responsible tourism. Some aspects that are important are that it is the Responsible Tourism Society will not only cover hotels and tourism service providers in rural areas, but we needed to cover city hotels and resorts also located in cities. We needed to cover transport and travel companies, and we needed to cover ancillary services like travel guides and so on, so that the message of being responsible in the tourism and travel industry passes on to all segments. Let me give you some challenges that we face and we faced. First and foremost, as we said earlier, travelers are not sensitive. And I think if you look at our Indian, what is happening in India, I think they create travelers, by and large, create a larger damage to the environment than perhaps the service providers do. And they are not responsible. They need to be sensitized. Number two, there is a lack of knowledge among service providers. If you look at the majority of service providers in the country, 70% are in the unorganized sector. You look at guest houses, which are lining the streets in small towns and tourism towns. You look at the dhabas, you look at the eateries. They have no sensitivity towards being responsible towards the environment. Then I think hotels, city hotels and large hotels, even in ecotourism areas, they are high producers of affluents and pollution. I think that is a reality that I must acknowledge. The hotels produce they consume a lot of energy, and they produce high amount of pollution and affluents. Then another challenge was that most of our destinations are overcrowded, which was also mentioned by Captain Sudesh Kumar. And he took the example of, Gangotri and things like that. But you go to any city like summer towns like Simla and Nainital, and, every summer there is a deluge of tourists. As a matter of fact, there is no parking space. There's no water. Cities have run out of water. Another issue here is unsustainable architecture, especially in the mountains. Instead of using local architectural, materials, we saw what was happening when the floods took place, how the buildings were crumbling and falling into the river, and what great loss of life and property. And of course, one of the major issues here is garbage segregation, plastic segregation, and overall management of garbage. Some of the solutions that we came out with, I think, first thing we said, we should have regular workshops. Now, I would like to add here that between the United Nations Environment Program, the Ministry of Tourism, and RTSOI, we have a tripartite agreement, and we three are working together on most of these initiatives that I'm going to talk about. So first is to conduct regular workshops in at least 6 workshops in India every year. And we divided the country into 6 regions: North, South, East, West, Central, and Northeast. So minimum 6 workshops every year for tourism service providers. But for this, the states must definitely have a budget. And I would, earlier, the workshops were not really budgeted for, but now we are prevailing upon each and every state that they should budget for regular workshops of this kind amongst tourism service providers. Secondly, there should be some form of, there is no form of certification, tabulation of local eateries and dhabas. There is and also no inspection consequently. And I think that is very, very important to bring them under some discipline of responsible tourism practices. And for that, each and every state has to play a very, very important role. Third solution was to conduct carrying capacity studies for different, especially the sensitive areas like the wildlife areas and the religious areas which are up in the mountains. We definitely need to conduct carrying capacity studies, and which has also been decided by the ministry that we will do that. We started, and coming down to the traveler, we started the Responsible Traveler campaign. We got certain, celebrities and people who are opinion leaders to make small videos, 2 minute videos, which we circulated all over social media. And I am now requesting the Ministry of Tourism to acquire these videos and to take this particular campaign at the national media level, which of course is a costly affair, and therefore, funds and budgets are required for the same. Then we came out with an environment charter, a very simple document where every service provider must have an environment charter for their employees in very simple, basic form, what they should, something like a do's and don'ts. And we came out with an environment charter, which we circulated very extensively to all the associations and most of the travel trade and our members, of course. Then we have suggested to state governments, which are high tourism intensity destinations, that they must have, notice boards of do's and don'ts at every tourism site, so that the tourist is made aware of what he should do and what he should not do. And to reinforce that, we have suggested that there should be a team of tourism wardens. I don't want to use the term tourism police. They are not police, because they will be sensitized and trained to not only give advice to tourists about what the destination is all about. There'll be a mixture of guides and somebody who is enforcing the responsible do's and don'ts at that destination. And a very good example I can tell you is Bhutan, where they have these kind of notice boards at all key tourism destinations, where even when you enter a city, they'll have a board saying, please don't do this and please don't do that, and do this and do that. As a matter of fact, I don't know whether you're aware, in Bhutan, if the local Bhutanese goes to any government office, he has to go in local uniform. That is the extent to which, the discipline is enforced. So our point is, as the RTSOI, that there is some form of enforcement of discipline required amongst tourists, the travelers. And I can tell you, I live in Delhi, and I live just behind a World Heritage Monument. And I go there every morning for my morning walks. The previous days, plastics, bags, bottles thrown around and left behind are a real heartache, and you wonder why tourists cannot be responsible. So, and I keep on talking to the people there that why don't you put a board here saying don't do this and don't do that, and check people from going in. Before they go in, they should not carry these things. And that is the enforcement I'm talking about. Then, of course, there has to be, in the hospitality industry, there has to be a ban on certain form of plastics, whether it is small bottles of water, which are widely used in conferences and which I think must be totally banned. Conferences must come down to using water bottles of treated water in the hotel and things like that. So there are these things. We also would recommend that synthetic packaging should be taxed, and we should actively, the industry should actively be made to work upon substitution of synthetic packaging, whether it is chips or wafers or whatever we are talking about. And there are alternatives available. Just like in hotels, we are trying to substitute, food packaging from plastics to, another form of natural hardboard. Then, of course, is the Code of Conduct for Safe and Honorable Tourism, which has been adopted by the ministry. In order to protect lakes, rivers, waterways, we are advocating, and we are strongly, requesting the state governments to have a no construction zone. They can have different formulae for rivers. They can have a different policy. For lakes, certainly they need a very different policy. And let me give you there are lakes in India, and where because of sewage getting into the lake, they may become swamps. I will not name them, but I think it is a very dangerous thing. So any form of habitat on the lake should be, in our opinion, is not really, unless there is a lot of discipline and proper infrastructure is provided. Then comes, engaging the local community. These are some of the solutions. Finally, one of the important solutions we've tried to promote is self-assessment. We have come out with a self-assessment sheet, which we are distributing amongst our community and telling them that be honest to yourself. And if you have a certain score, we are going to give them a certain rating, and that rating can be used and advertised in their communications, which will add value to their client profile, etc. So that self-assessment scheme we are now, amongst the three most important things which I would like to mention here. One is the sustainable tourism of criteria of India, which we actively worked towards formulating with the Ministry of Tourism. That needs to be implemented, and we are actively now working with the Ministry of Tourism towards having that implemented. The second thing that we have advocated very strongly is that every school in India must have an half-an-hour interaction on being a responsible citizen. And this includes not only teaching them, in a graded manner in different classes about hygiene, sanitation, pollution, energy consumption, water consumption, first aid, disaster preparedness, and things like that over a period of time, so that when they come out and even road rules for that matter, so that when they come out into society, when they grow up, when they get out of school into college, they are responsible citizens. And that is I want to share with you that we had a subject in school when I was in school called moral science. It had nothing to do with any religion or anything. It was all about teaching us to be good human beings and good citizens. So I think that should be compulsorily reintroduced in all schools across India, which is what RTSOI is advocating. And of course, with that, just like you have, you have NCC and things like that, I think every school should include some form of social service at some monument or at some place, so that they learn the value of keeping areas clean and things like that. So these are some of the things and that we have solutions that we have come out with. We've built a very good network. We have as our partners WWF, then South Asia Women's Network, INTAC, then United Nations Environment Program, Wildlife SOS. We are working very closely with ITC, with MMT and things like that. What I want to say is that the major problem lies in two areas. One is the irresponsible traveler, and the second is the unorganized sector. Let me tell you, the organized sector, the big chains, the big industry in the travel and tourism industry, the travel companies by and large are all very wary and very sensitive now and are doing a lot in this direction. Our problem lies a majority of our problem lies in the unorganized sector. So I think, having said this, I've covered most of the points I wanted to add. Over back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mathur Sahab. Thank you very much. All the points well taken home, regular workshops and 6 workshops being organized by your setup. That's remarkable. And you're covering the entire area, north, south, east, west, and northeast as well. Certification for the local eateries, carrying capacity studies and involving celebrities for some of the promotional campaigns, environmental, the charter, do's and don'ts for the tourist, example for the Bhutan. And finally, the 3 points which you have given, sustainable tourism implementation with the Ministry of Tourism, every school to have 30 minutes, for the responsible tourism, and like NCC, some social service for by students to be done. I think as a good student, I've taken all the notes very well. So let me get back closing remarks by both the distinguished guests. Before that, I must convey my deep gratitude and thanks to Subhash Verma ji also, the tourism legend who brought Rakesh Mathur ji today. I am thankful to him. Now, Sudesh ji, I would request you, your closing remarks, which you would like to tell to the universities, colleges and institutions and the youth and the teachers and the counselors and the vocational, the fraternity, which is imparting travel and tourism education in India. I would request you to have your closing remarks on that. Kindly unmute your mic, please. Because it is also a part of a drill nowadays that you have to ensure. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I want to explain to my friends here across the board that each one of you please appreciate and understand the unless you have practical training, practical experience, theory has no meaning. So my humble request at the closing will be again to see that you must take advantage of us in the industry, organized sector, as Rakesh has mentioned, that we are ready to help you. Let's work together hand to hand. I need a skilled manpower, and you need somebody who has actual experience, not theory, but practical experience. And please understand my experience, my company, we have a huge shortage of people with experience. So if people have experience, work for 9 months, 1 year, 2 years, it will be big help. One more point I would like to say, each one of you, wherever you are from, please make your local communities more sensitive towards ecotourism. For example, if you're from Ladakh, you must ensure that wherever village you are from, tell villagers, tell everybody, the panchayat or somebody, hey, behave. If a tourist is coming and misbehaving, he must be taught that he cannot misbehave. I give you an example. In Ladakh, we have a Stock Kangri peak. Stock Kangri is the most popular peak, 6,000-meter peak to climb. Hundreds of people go over there. The local communities decided 2 years ago to stop people going because when they're polluting the river, because the river was flowing from the top to village, the filthy people using it to their waste, human waste was going in that river, and there's no respect. So they closed it for 3 years, and they're still not opening it. So only because somebody in the society or in the village decided to behave, tell people to behave. So I think you must please do go and tell your communities that be responsible and tell the travelers to how to behave. And one more point I want to explain to you. One of the good points for us is that India is treated as a destination from October to March. If you promote ecotourism, that means nature tourism, that means soft adventure tourism, you're doing it in the off-season months, normal traveler, that is from April to September, October. So that means India becomes the 12-month destination and a big service to the tourism industry.
Certainly. Wonderful. Because if 12 months you're getting the tourists, whether domestic tourists or inbound tourism, yes, whatever is there, it brings the optimum utilization of the infrastructure, economic multiplier, employment, entrepreneurship, startup, everything comes over there. Wonderful. All 3 points given by Captain Sudeshji. Practical training, no theory. More than 1,000 people are watching this program live on the YouTube at this point of time on ICSI India. I'm grateful to all of you. Thank you very much for joining. I'm pretty sure the people, those are from the educational hubs and educational institutions, practical training, and here are the legends of the tourism. Those are ready to give you the service, whatever they can. And Honorable Education Minister, Arunachal Pradesh relative, you are also watching this program, and you can see Rubru Captain Sudesh Kumar, to whom you were to join in the summer vacations, if you recall. She's also there on the program. Okay. Now, coming further, he told that local communities to be more sensitive. And finally, ecotourism can make India as a round the year, all the 12 months as a tourist destination. Wonderful. Let me just come to Mathur Sahab. Mathur Sahab, how do you see post-COVID-19, when we rethink tourism, repackage tourism, redesign, or whatever has to be done onto tourism? What is your take onto that? Let's have your views.
All right. I think first and foremost, the COVID period had a great impact on, I think, all over the world as far as the aspect of sustaining the environment is concerned. and indulging in sustainable tourism and responsible tourism practices. But all of them have not been, taken a practical shape as yet. There's a long way to go. A lot of implementation has to take place. But I do personally believe that there is great awareness now, and it has only gone to help us to promote our aims and objectives further. A couple of things as far as the luxury segment is concerned. As far as hospitality is concerned, the whole concept of luxury has moved away from materialistic luxury to experiential luxury. I think there has been a major shift in the overall hospitality segment, from materialistic luxury to experiential luxury. And I do believe that high conspicuous consumption of goods and services led to a lot of let us say pressure on the environment and resources, which is now moving, and people are realizing the wonders of simplistic living, localized living, and experiencing local cultures and things like that, and they are willing to pay for it. So I would say that has been the main shift in as far as the tourism industry is concerned post-COVID.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Aims and objectives to be implemented, and materialistic luxury getting converted to realistic luxury, and simple living post-pandemic. That is something very important, he told, because, when you think post-pandemic, you got to draw your priorities. People going to nearby places, green places, and ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible tourism plays very important role, because people would like to travel in a small groups to the nearby destination, nearby places with the families, not into too much of crowd, and local cultural experience. That is also Mathur Sahab has made a mention. That is something. I think Mathur Sahab, you want to say something?
I just wanted to say it is not simplistic luxury, it is experiential luxury.
Experience.
Where the experience is very rich.
Okay.
And the rest of the where you are living, where your food, etc., is very localized and does not cause damage to the environment. Yes. Things like that. So I think if the way I feel is that if there is any God that we can actually see with our own eyes, it is nothing but nature. And therefore, it's very important for us to connect with nature. Everything we get is nature, is from nature, from the sun, the energy, the mountains, the rivers, the trees. That is where we are. That is ensuring human survival. And I would request all future tourists to respect nature, to respect the environment, be responsible, and I, in a sense, revert to middle class lives. What we as youngsters followed in our you reuse things like that. Lead simplistic lives and not run after luxurious, conspicuous consumption. I think that is my take on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful inputs by both the distinguished guests today. And ladies and gentlemen, ecotourism, nature tourism, adventure tourism, sustainable tourism, responsible tourism, whatever we can think of, let's take a trip, because Mananiya Pradhan Mantri ji has also conveyed, at least let's travel to 15 destinations in our country. Dekho apna desh. Whatever modes you travel, whatever means you travel, and something very nice which Mathur Sahab has also made a mention, that once again, be very responsible and spend less, because when you spend less, you consume less. That is also something very important. And Swadeshi, people have taken in Arunachal Pradesh your views very seriously, and some of them have posted right there on the YouTube that you had offered them midway when they were finishing their bachelor's and master degree in tourism. You have told them to come and join you. So those 1,000 people, those are right over here. You still stand a chance. I can request Captain Sudesh Kumarji to take you on, 3 to 6 months, whatever is the internship, children can go over there. With these words, my deepest gratitude and thanks to both the distinguished speakers. Thank you very much for joining us. So ladies and gentlemen, world over, it's a green morning, it's a green afternoon, and it's a